Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. We are back live for our third live stream for YouTube. And that also happens to be three more than I ever expected to reach. So that's great. We're going to keep it going. And welcome to part two of our two-part series on how to run your Kickstarter campaign. And today, I'll be talking you through um, basically really just how to build your audience. So in the first part, we covered more of how to go about the entire product development process and doing prototyping. And today, I'm just going to be talking to you more about where do you go from there, right? So let's kick things off. So today will be a pretty packed session. So I'm gonna go as fast as I can, and I'm going to try to use as little jargon as possible. But drop your comments in the chat if you have any questions at any time. Sometimes I'm not looking at the chat, so like could my team at any time just stop me if I'm rambling and I'm not looking at questions and answering them. Great, cool. So let's get to it. So sorry. All right. So there you go. So we left off at now that you have your product, what do you do with it? Just to give you a recap, so who we are, what we do. So we are, so I'm the co-creator of Potato Pirates, and we basically make games that democratize computer science and make it accessible for anyone and everyone, regardless of age or language, spoken language or programming language, right? So regardless of any universal language. Till today, we have raised over 600,000 from Kickstarter, and we have produced 3 games in our product catalog. And we launched our first game in 2017, our second game in 2020, which covers cybersecurity. It's called Enter the Spotnet. And we just have launched our third game, and we wrapped up that campaign at the end of July, and that's called Battle Chips. So we have sold over 50,000 of these games worldwide, and these games are also available for print and play in over 25 languages. Potato Pirates has also gone on to be featured worldwide as one of the best ways to learn computer science. And I will be talking to you about like how all this came to happen and how we had an idea, built it, and then built an audience around it. So if you remember from the first part, I said that there's 4 parts to 4 secret ingredients to creating a successful campaign. And I covered only the first part in part 1 of the series. So today, actually, I will be covering mostly about the second part, how to create a big audience. And for bonus, if we have the time, I'll talk about like creating an awesome video and creating constant buzz. I mean, there are a lot of like tools out there to teach you like how to do like awesome video creation. So I think you're covered on that. Cool. So now that you have a product, how do you go about building an audience, right? And so this is like the key factor that determines the success of your campaign, because there are hundreds of projects that are launching on crowdfunding campaigns, Kickstarter, Indiegogo every day, especially in the board game area, because board game is a hugely popular segment right now, and there are so many board game projects out there, and the market is really flooded, right? So how do you go about building that audience? And Peter Thiel, who is like one of like these Silicon Valley gurus, right? So this quote is from him: poor distribution is the #1 cause of failure, not really your product. So your product may have been actually pretty stellar, but it's just that it wasn't distributed well enough, or it wasn't hyped enough, right? So that's the main pitfall that even we and I as a creator have uh, made, and the mistake we've made, and it's a pitfall to avoid. So 50% of your time should be dedicated to your product, and 50% of your time should be dedicated to your audience, right? And before I move further, I also want to tell you that most of what I'll be telling you is going to be coming. A lot of it is covered in this book, and it's this book called Traction, and it's written by Gabriel Weinberg, who is the creator of the search engine DuckDuckGo. And I think DuckDuckGo first launched about over 10 years ago. So I think around 2008, 2009. And I mean, you must be thinking like it's a suicide mission to try and enter into a market that is just completely dominated by Google already. And this is Gabriel Weinberg's story about how he went about like building an audience, right? So this book was like, so I followed it religiously in the buildup of our first campaign. And honestly, a lot of what's covered over here, together with a lot of other resources that I've read, are summarized in today's presentation. But I would definitely recommend this book if anyone wants to read on more. Okay, cool. So let's get to it. How do you build a big audience? So growth hacking is a word like quite commonly thrown around, and I use that a lot as well. But growth hacking is the process of doing rapid testing across multiple channels to find the channels that are working best for you. And a lot of these channels tend to be not very conventional. So unconventional channels. That's why it's called hacking, right? Because you're sort of like hacking growth and not using traditional marketing channels to build your audience. Traditional marketing channels in the sense of like print media, like you don't have the budget to create ads on like newspapers or magazines, or you don't even have the budget to run like digital ads, like social media ads, right? What would you do? So like there are a lot of like I guess ways to find your audience on the internet and engage with them in their meaningful manner. So growth hacking is a process of testing different marketing channels, especially on an unorthodox one, which can promise you high growth with a low cost, and finding the one that works for you, and then capitalizing on it. So that is, in a nutshell, growth hacking, finding the most efficient way to grow a business. So why do growth hacking and who does growth hacking? So startups or young companies who don't have a product out there yet, or are launching their first product, or are going for crowdfunding and don't really have anything to sell up front, right? And don't even and are doing it on a shoestring budget, right? So that would be the perfect case for you to try and find the best ways for you to grow your audience, which was the circumstance for us. Always has been, right? So we've always found unorthodox ways to try and grow the product. Who can do growth hacking? And it's really everyone and anyone's job. So my background as an engineer does not stop me from doing to find growth for the products that we are rolling out. And in fact, that to me is a bigger part of my responsibility than traditional engineering. So yeah, remember this. So growth hacking is all about low cost, high growth alternatives to traditional channels of marketing or finding people or building your audience, right? So that's the who, what, and why of growth hacking. So this is a very important diagram, and we will come back to this at a later time. But this just illustrates what the growth hacking life cycle is. And growth hacking comes in, there are three distinct parts to it. The first is about getting customers. The second is about keeping them. And the third is about growing your customer base, right? So how do you get customers? How do you keep them? And how do you grow the customers that you have? So I would describe the first part of this as a funnel, but not just a funnel, but a leaky funnel, right? So this funnel has a lot of leaks because a lot of people drop out. So the first part of it is like a funnel, and you're trying to maximize the flow of it and maximize the throughput. So it means you're trying to maximize the people who get from like strangers to become your customers. And the second part of this is like a megaphone, right? So you're trying to get your customers to become your own marketing department and help you grow the brand with you, right? And that's something that we always try to do with our community, who are amazing and awesome. I mean, they are the ones who helped us to translate our game into 27 languages. And they are always, I mean, you guys, like if you're listening, so you're always, there for us to help us grow the brand and make it more accessible. And honestly, like we couldn't ask for anything more. So again, it's about getting customers, keeping, and then growing them. So getting customers really talks about how do you reduce the dollar spent for acquiring each customer, and that's what you call the customer acquisition cost, right? And the second part is about retaining cost of customers, and the third is lifetime value, means over the course of a customer's lifetime with your brand or your company, how much would they, how much money would you possibly earn from this single customer? Like I said, there will be jargon, but again, you may be wondering what all these things are. So we will touch on these things later, but just try and I just basically explain the gist of it, and I hope it makes sense so far. Cool. So moving right along. Yeah, so growth hacking simplified is really just converting strangers to promoters by finding the simplest way to do that by maximizing, excuse me, maximizing touch points. So yeah, it's like a growth wormhole. Yes, Gajan. Because you're always trying to feed. It's like creating a feedback loop within that, and you're always trying to feed people back into the start of the loop. And so you're trying to really just maximize that, right? So yes, growth hacking simplified is converting strangers to promoters by maximizing touch points. So like for someone who has never heard of you before or your brand, how do you convert them to, buy your product, and then not just buy it, but promote it to people? So to break that down, to break down all these steps from stranger to promoter, we talk about the pirate metric, which is called R, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that we make games about piracy and potatoes. It's just because it's acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue, and it just sounds like a pirate, R, right? So let's break that down for you. So acquisition is really about how do you acquire a stranger to become a visitor on your website or wherever it is, right? So how do users first find you, right? And how do you activate this user by identifying that this person is interested in what you have? Retention means how do you retain their interest? They haven't bought anything from you, but you've identified that this person is very likely to be interested in buying my product. And how do you retain them? And how do you get them to refer other such people? And how do you finally get them to convert to being a customer? And sometimes referral happens after the revenue phase. That's perfectly fine. And it doesn't always happen in this order, but this is the way that it makes most sense when we're explaining it. So if you were to look at the same thing in a diagram, that this is something, this is like what you would see. So acquisition, again, how does someone actually find you for the first time? So usually, so it's called PESO, P-E-S-O. So there's a few ways to get it. And usually online, it's one of these four, P-E-S-O, means paid, earned, shared, or owned media, right? So paid media means like running ads, right? You're paying to get people's attention. Earned media is when someone writes about you. Let's say you get covered in a blog, you get covered in a large publication, you get covered by a big news outlet. Yeah, so that like doing PR, right? So earned media, so that's that. Owned media is when you are releasing your own content on, say, YouTube or Instagram or Twitter, and just trying to build an audience around the content that you're releasing. And that's your owned media. And shared media is a byproduct of your own media, which like when you're creating blogs or whatever it is, when people share it, they share it if they find it useful or funny or cute or whatever it is, if they share it, then you get to grow that audience through that channel as well. So again, paid, earned, shared, and owned media, so PESO. So that's how a stranger would first find you, right? And once they do, then you're trying to activate them by getting them to your landing page or going to your home page, trying to talk to them about your product feature. And at this stage, you want to get an initial buy-in from from a person who is a first-time visitor on your website. An initial buy-in, meaning in a term, in a way to indicate to you that this person is into your product. Um, so that's what we call leads, right? How do you generate leads? So that's your job to get them to work on your call to action. I mean, what is the action that you want this user to take? And then you want to track whether the user is taking this action. So typically for us, that action is trading their email for something that is of use to them, right? And that's what we call content marketing. Or we show product features, and we also again get them to opt in to our mailing list to be informed about when we launch, right? So so either by showcasing our product features, or or putting out a paywall, or not paywall, but just like email walled content, meaning we release a resource that may be fun for people like to learn computer science without computers offline. So but in order to get that, you have to trade your email, right? So that would be the call to action for them, and then we track how many people actually, do that and trade their email for it. So you need to be very clear about this in this day and age when everyone is just completely bombarded with sensory overload of content. People are very particular about who they share their emails with. So if someone is actually is actually trading their email in exchange for whatever you have, chances are that they are seriously interested in what you're doing. So, but at the same time, there is a difference between quality and quantity of leads, right? Certain activation strategies would yield higher quantity of leads, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are very interested, right? So this usually is determined by how much effort it takes for them to actually be converted into your call to action. I'll explain a little more about that as we go along. So that's activation, and retention basically means like how do you keep them updated on what's happening, and how do you like keep their interest live. So retention is usually done through emails and alerts and certain time-based features that you could release. And then at the same time, you're also trying to get them to refer people, to get them to refer other like-minded individuals who may be interested, or like-minded like personas of users who may be interested in whatever you're selling. And then finally converting that to revenue. And that for us only happens when we go live on Kickstarter. That's a lot to take in. So where do you start, right? So where do I start, right? So that's always the first question that I get asked. And I think that's the most important question, because the first step is always the most difficult, and it's also the most important. So let's break down the first step. So I guess the first step would be really to identify how many marketing channels are out there, right? So there's so many, right? And I'm listing 18 in front of you, and I'm sure the list is bigger than that, right? It's really up to your own creativity to find out how many other marketing channels you can identify. So I would say the first step is really to list down whatever you can think is a great channel for you to try and capitalize on, or not a great channel, a possible channel for you to capitalize on, and try to list as many as you can, right? So once you're done with that, so once you've listed all the possible marketing channels, then what we use and what I would recommend to you is using the Bullseye Framework, right? And the Bullseye Framework comes again from the book I mentioned earlier. It's called Traction. And the Bullseye Framework is consisting of 3 steps where you brainstorm. And the first one is brainstorm, where you brainstorm different marketing channels. The second one is ranked. So these are actually not ranked. I'm just listing them, right? And the third is test, right? So let's look at step 2 and 3. So again, brainstorm I've covered, but when you're starting to rank it, what you need to think about is a few things. So how probable does it seem that this idea could work? Okay. And you say you can rank it on a scale of 1 to 5. How many customers can you expect to get out of it? So let's say you are you're comparing between like writing blogs on your own website compared to running ads on Instagram, right? So there would be definitely a difference in the number of customers or number of prospects you could reach between your own blog post that just lives on your website versus Instagram, where you put money into it, but it shows up for more people, right? But at the same time, you have to pay for that view, right? Each view will cost you money. So that's where you have to do this cost benefit analysis of like, is it worth it, and how many, so how much would it cost for me to acquire this customer, and then what is the time frame needed to run this idea. So the way you need to set up these tests is very experimental, because you don't know what will work and what won't. So the best way to figure that out is to create a test that within a week you should be able to tell that yes, this is working for me, and no, this is not working for me, right? And when you rank them, so the first step will give you a good idea of like which ones you want to possibly work on. And then when you rank them, that's why you call it the Bullseye Framework. You rank them in a way for Bullseye. So Bullseye is the inner circle where you only get to choose 3 channels, which are the most promising to you based on what you have discussed in step 1. The outer channels are potential possibilities, and the outermost channels are long shots, means you don't think that those would work for you, right? So then when you've established that, the inner circle, the potential, and the long shot, then it really just comes down to testing. And the success of using the Bullseye Framework lies in the balance of just one particular thing, I would say. And that's how efficiently you can run tests and how quick you can run tests, right? So the way tests should be set up should be within a week. Like I said, it should be able to tell you maximum 2 weeks, right, that it's working or it's not working. When you run tests, there are a few things you need to be concerned about. The first is, how much does it cost to acquire each lead at this point? Like for us, the way we measure that is how much it costs for us to acquire every single email, right? So because each email is a potential customer for us, because at that time when they are giving their email to us, we don't have anything to sell to them. Especially when we launched our first game, we had nothing to sell to them. So that's all we could measure, right? Lifetime value of customers, sometimes it's just too easy to too early to identify that, but if you can, that's great. And how many customers do you think are available through this channel, right? If you're doing offline engagement, it may not be that many, because you'd have to keep doing that, but maybe those people would be very engaged users, right? So it may be a trade-off between volume, like I said, quantity and quality, right? And are these the right customers? That's what I just said. So it may be a trade-off between quantity and quality, because if someone sees your ad on Instagram and they can just like opt in with a single click of a button, it doesn't take a lot of effort to do that. So I may just do that impulsively, but I don't really care so much about your product. Versus if you're going out to do like offline engagement, like run play tests with them, like in our case, when we bring our game out and like make people test it and like get them to spend like an hour with us, sitting down and playing the game. Those people would be a lot more, vested in the product than someone who just click the button and moves along, right? So that's the trade-off. So these were like some of the shortlisted, I guess, channels that we identified, right? So PR, SEM, social media, SEO, content marketing, email marketing, affiliate programs, trade shows, and offline events. So we actually have till today, like we do, a certain aspect of all of these, and maybe even more than that. But we always focus our efforts on one thing, or at least we try our best to focus our efforts on one thing at a time. So what that looks like in relatable symbols and channels and apps that you may be using is this, right? So, Quora, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, SEO, Moz, I put Moz's logo there because they're really big on SEO, making landing pages with Strikingly, finding leads through Lead IQ, using BuzzSumo to figure out what are the best blogs to write based on like the shares they're doing, Pinterest to find people, Pinterest to find ideas, Instagram to run ads, Meetup, Meetup like Meetup.com to really get into meetups, engaging with people on YouTube, right, making YouTube videos and doing YouTube comments. So like, I mean, I'm just going through it one by one, but I think you get the idea, right? So there's a lot of possibilities, and it doesn't mean that if it works for us, it will work for you. And it doesn't mean that if it works for you, it will work for us. Like not every channel, not all channels and not all products are built equal, right? And it's very specific to your audience. Your prerogative is to find where your audience lives. And the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can engage with them, the better for you. So again, when you're doing this, you're trying to find the largest volume, lowest cost, and best conversions, right? So identifying marketing channels based on these three things: largest volume, so what yields the biggest volume of views, like because right now we're still at the acquisition stage, right? So how many strangers will be able to see what you're doing or have access to what you're doing at that point? And how much will it cost you? And what yields the best conversions? Let me give you an example. If you went on Reddit and posted, hey, I'm launching this product, does it look good? Well, it's free. It may not give you the best conversions because it may also just get you banned from that subreddit, right? Because Reddit's very strict on its policies about self-promotion, right? Or it may completely go in your favor, right? So people may think this is splendid, like I wish you all the best, I want to sign up right now. So again, it's free and it may give you great conversions, but the volume really depends on how niche your product is. So if you're posting on like a subreddit, that doesn't have much activity, so you won't really see that volume compared to if you're posting on a really big subreddit. So that will be big volume. So that's sort of the difference, and that's how we analyze these things before we do it. So the way we did it, I'm going to show you how we did it for our first game. So this is before we even had a product to sell, right? And our game, I think we were done, like we were ready with our game by April of 2017, but it wasn't until September of 2017 that we actually launched our Kickstarter, because we spent the summer, we just spent the next few months really just focusing on all these things. And that's when I religiously followed whatever I read in the book Traction. So the first thing we tried out was content marketing, where we made up these, we came up with these free resources, like the Find Potato King's Treasure and Saving Potato King, which are printable resources specifically for elementary and preschools, which teachers or young parents could be able to use with their young children. And all they had to do was trade their email, and we would email this resource to them, or trade their email and then they would be able to download it directly from our website. So just based on this content, which would be useful to someone who is either a young parent or they are a teacher in an elementary or a preschool, we ran ads, and we basically created a landing page and we ran ads, and we tried to analyze which ads for which demographic of people are working the best. And we realized that a lot of people started trading their emails for in exchange for what we had, which was a great, which was like a great motivation for all of us. So then we realized that that's the power of content marketing, because all these people who are trading their emails for this resource would be very likely to want to buy our game, which does the same thing, which teaches computer science without any computers, specifically targeted at young children and making it accessible to young children. So that was one. And the other thing we did, which we still have on our website, so like all these things that you are looking at, which we came up with many years ago, have been updated and are still on our website till today. You can find this along with a lot of other downloadable content that we put up for free. So we put up a lot of coding resources for free, and that's really not just, it isn't just a marketing strategy, it's really just what we believe in. We want to make a difference and make coding accessible. So it's a win-win for us, right? And it's a win for people who are downloading it. So it's a win-win-win, right? So The other thing we came up with was a learning progression chart, because when we started talking to a lot of young parents, and they were like, there's so many things out there. In fact, like I had someone message me yesterday asking me about, hey, I want to get my kids started on coding. How do I start? Because there's so many options out there, and it's like sensory overload. You don't really know what to do. So we came up with this simple like form, right? Type form. We use type form to create this simple form that you could answer based on what your child's interests are. We would or child interests and age. We would recommend what is the best place for them to start, right? And a simple thing like that would allow us to also capture their emails, because if you're looking for resources to get your kids started on computer science, you would probably want to buy our game when we launch it. So we just use that persona, and we create specific content for that persona. We ran a lot of offline events, so a lot of our weekends were spent running like these free programs where we would get parents and children together to come to play prototypes of our game. If you can, like, the games are the cards are pretty small in the photos, but trust me, these are prototypes, and these were not the cards that were eventually released. So the artwork isn't finalized. In some cases, the game play also was not finalized, but we were just running these offline events and just seeing how people react. And of course, all smiles. Everyone had fun. There were some tears shed. There were some kids who were very sad about getting hijacked. So, which was a learning point for us as well. Like, we realized, okay, this is a bit too brutal for kids sometimes, but in the interest of like fun and like also like what we believe in, we kept certain of those elements. So along with that, what we did is we not just to get them to come over to play this game, like we also offered them some simple basics in computer science, like how to code. So we would play the game and then translate what they've learned in the game to how to actually write code. And what we saw was that playing the Potato Pirates game really helped them to understand and make that connection of that translation into writing actual code. So that to us like just showed us that that was a success metric for us, and it just showed us that we were on the right path. Cool. So that was offline events. This is another strategy, right? And we would also be able to capture all these people's emails, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of them actually went on to buy our games, and I hope they have bought our future products as well. So finding other prospects. So sometimes you are trying to find people who are in high ranks in certain offices, in certain companies, and you don't have a direct line of communication or direct access to these people, and you're trying to find that. So certain prospecting can be pretty difficult at times. These are more like, I would say, gray hat tactics. So use them wisely, right? So there are a number of these tools out there, but I want to mention two that we have used. One is Lead IQ, and the other is Hunter. And the third that we use is the only one that we use right now. It's called Rocket Reach, right? It's the logo is not up here, but what it does is you key in anyone's LinkedIn profile into Lead IQ or Hunter or Rocket Reach, like whichever tool you're using, and the tool basically gives you back their email address, right? And that allows you to get in touch with them. Of course, this is cold emailing, not the most effective way of growing your audience, but in certain cases, it does yield the results that you're looking for if you are honest and forthright. And I'll talk to you a little more about that as we go along. The other thing we also have dabbled with is bots, web scraping, and chatbots, right? So chatbots are very common. Chatbots are very encouraged by marketing gurus out there because chat is the way to engage with customers of the future, right? So there are a lot of good chatbot tools out there. ManyChat, so this logo, the one in the middle, ManyChat is great for making chatbots on Facebook. And I believe it also integrates into Instagram. I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but Yeah, ManyChat is great for making simple templates for just creating a chatbot experience so that people can chat with you directly from social media. The other thing we have also dabbled with is building our audience using certain automation, but you must be very careful with these things because if you're detected as a bot, it your channel gets shut down or your page gets shut down immediately, or maybe it gets suspended for a while. So just be very careful about what you're doing out there in the internet. I know a lot of people also buy likes and do follows for follows, but nothing is more efficient than organic growth, right? So there are ways to do it, but nothing beats organic growth. Social media ads. So again, this is really about how creative you can be with it and how I guess how much you can stand out from people out there. So this is like one of the earliest ads we ran for Potato Parrots. I just put it up here because you may be familiar with how we run. Yeah, so Potato Parrots is typing in the chat just so you know I'm not a chatbot. So there's actually an actual human on the other side of this typing that. Thank you, human. So yeah, this is one of the first ads we ran for Potato Parrots on social media, and I'm just showing you, what kind of ideas we were dabbling with, and we've done so many since then. We're always trying to find unconventional, wacky, funny ads and finding which works, because you never know what will resonate with your audience. And more than organic growth, nothing beats organically grown potatoes. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Potato Parrots. So some terminology that you need to know. I'm not going to spend so much time on this slide. Cost per click means how much it costs to earn a click of anyone who's seeing your ad. Click-through rate really just means what is the rate of people who see your ads versus the ones who click on it, and you divide that, you get that percentage. Call to action is what you're asking them to do on your website. Is it sign up now or download this resource with your email? Like, what's that thing that you're asking them to do once you have gotten them to see your ad? Are you trying to get them to go on your link in bio or something like that? Are you trying to get them to your landing page? What is it that you're trying to get them to do? That's your call to action. Cost per acquisition is how much does it cost to acquire a customer and not just a click. So if they click through onto our website, on our website, we have our resource. They still have to trade their email to get the resource. So it's like a two-step process. And that's the cost per acquisition. The cost per acquisition will be counted based on how many emails we get versus how much we spent on that campaign, right? So if you spend $100 and you get 10 emails, your cost per acquisition is $10, right? Ideally, you want to keep that number below $1, right? Just for emails. Like that's a cost per prospect or cost per lead, not exactly a cost per acquisition of a customer because they haven't really bought your product. Conversion rate, again, just means the percentage of people who perform the call to action. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. So the way it looks, a simple funnel, how it looks is from the people who see your ads to how many people actually engage with it or like click through onto your website or do whatever the call to action is, versus how many people, once they come to your landing page, trade their email with you for whatever you have. And from that, how many emails actually become customers when you launch your product. So for us, when we launch those Learn Coding Without Computers resources, so we have, let's say we have 5,000 ad views, and out of those 5,000 people who saw our ad, only 1,000 of them clicked onto our website. And from the people who came to our website, most of them just closed it immediately because they didn't want it. And only 100 people traded their email with us. And from the 100 emails we collected, when we launched on Kickstarter, only 5 people bought our game. So that sounds very miserable, right? Of course, like these are just for illustration. So it can be better than this, right? But this is usually how it works, right? So it's a many-step process. So you will lose people along the way. Now you may be wondering, like, does this even make sense? So let's say you spend $500 on this ad, right? So does it make sense? So unless the average price that a customer is paying you is above $100, you're making a loss, right? Because you spent $500 to get 5 customers. Now, if each of this customer pays you 1,000, 2,000, or $10,000, you're in business, right? Because you're making money. But if they're just buying your game for like $20, right? You've only made back $100 for a $500 spend. And this $100 is just the cost of your game. It doesn't even factor in the fact that you still have to manufacture this game and ship it to them, right? So you have to really factor all those things in. So running ads, like creating GIFs, making short videos, I think there's a lot of resource out there, but like you can explore different channels like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and even the Google search network, right, for this. So when you're building landing pages, just like ads, are very experimental. So everything inside this funnel is experimental, where you're trying to create the most creative ads to figure out what works best for you. And then on your landing page, you're trying to change certain things and test which ones work better, like what call to action, what color button, what background, what's the header, what's the first thing that people see. All those things make a huge difference on the conversion rate. So the way to do that is really to build many landing pages and do a lot of A/B testing. A/B testing means you keep all elements of the page the same and you just change one, right? So on one version of your landing page, you're saying buy Potato Pirates now. On the other one, you're saying learn computer science without computers with this game, right? So you have two different headings and you're seeing which one works better, right? So you keep changing this and keep testing it until you are finding something that works, right? Until you're finding something that people are resonating with. So something we used back in the day was Unbounce. I hope this tool is still around, but what we use right now is Strikingly. So Strikingly is a great template-based website. So is Unbounce. So Strikingly is a great template-based website that allows you to create good-looking websites in a matter of minutes, and anyone without the knowledge of computer science, coding, web development can get it done. No code is required. So Strikingly is great to use. It's got many themes. It's very good looking. There are many of these other like template-based websites out there that you could use. That's really up to you. There's Wix, there's WordPress, there's a bunch of other ones. But our tool of choice is Strikingly, and running A/B tests with Google. So Google has a tool for A/B testing. Someone drop it in the chat. I'm forgetting the name. So Google allows you to run A/B tests. So the other thing we also work on, we work with, is headline analyzers. So there's a tool called CoSchedule's Headline Analyzer, which basically makes a comparison or gives you a rank based on the number of power words, emotional words, and uncommon words that you're using in your headline. And what we usually do, our practice is to come up with 25 different headlines, measure all of them, and then shortlist maybe 5 from it, and then choose the ones that work best for us. So an example of that is right here in front of you on your screen. And of course, you can pause here if you want to see more, but some of them are pretty wacky, right? Another great tool to incorporate, which plugs into any website pretty easily, is Crazy Egg. It's a heat map. It shows you where people are clicking and where people are not. And where there are a lot of rage clicks, means like if something is wrong with your website in terms of design or functionality, you would be able to tell it through Crazy Egg. Crazy Egg also allows you to identify where people are coming in from, and also it allows you to identify where people are dropping off. So it means if there's some problem in your landing page which is preventing you from converting people to full-time users, that would be great. So then now that we've covered activation, so after acquisition comes activation. Now that we've covered that, I'm going to quickly power through these next 2 things. So retention and referral. So for retention, what we do is we send automated emails. And automated emails can be weekly or event based. Only when you have something to share with them, you do that, right? So running automated emails allows you to create flows, automated flows. So you don't have to, you know, click send for each one, and you can schedule these, and they're great. So creating flows is great. It allows you to split your customers into segments. So you're sharing different content with different demographics of people. If someone came in through your landing page for, which is specifically meant for gamers, they would see different content from someone who came into our landing page for, say, for education, right? Because they are in it for different purposes. So automated emails allows you to do that. We use MailChimp and MailJet for this. MailChimp is definitely, I would say, one of the more expensive options out there, but we love it because it ties into a lot of other softwares out there. It's got a lot of add-on features that you can even create landing pages directly on MailChimp now. So if you get a subscription on MailChimp, you'll be able to not you wouldn't even actually need Strikingly. You can do it all on MailChimp. It's our tool of choice, and it doesn't disappoint. So going to step 4, we are talking now about referrals. So referrals is really about trying to get people who are excited about what you're doing to get them to link to more people, right? Or get them to refer more people to your product. So we've ran a bunch of affiliate programs, and what we do now is we mostly use Kickbooster. Kickbooster is a great product because it allows you to run referral programs before your Kickstarter campaign, during your Kickstarter campaign, and even after. So the way it works is you set a commission percentage. So let's say if I refer my friend and they buy from your campaign, let's say they buy a product on your campaign for $50, I would get, let's say if the commission fee is 10%, I would get 10% of that, which is $5, just for making that referral. The way it works is everyone gets a unique link. So I would have my own link. I would be able to share it amongst my friends and family. And if anyone ends up checking out on your Kickstarter campaign with my unique link, I would get the 10% fee. And you can make this fee more or less. You can vary it depending on what you want. And you can also set a base fee and also make it more for people who are more important. This strategy also works with like trying to get people to feature you on their websites. So that's a great one, right? So Kickbooster, and it also works post campaign because it also links with web stores. So we use Shopify for our own web store, and Kickbooster actually can integrate with Shopify. So you can actually run referral programs on your website once you're out of crowdfunding. So another great thing to do is run giveaways. The giveaways can be about your own product, or just running giveaways for gift vouchers. And we're doing a giveaway right now for this live stream, so stay tuned for the discount code that we will share for our store at the end of this. Cool. A great tool for running giveaways on your own website is this tool called Hello Bar, HELLOBAR. And Hello Bar basically allows you to create this pop-up when people are about to navigate away from your website, or based on whatever trigger you define, and they'll be able to write in their emails to sign up for a giveaway. So we've run giveaways on our website, like a monthly giveaway, for a long time, and it does get us more visibility, more emails, and then we can engage with these prospects and try and convert them to paying customers. And then finally, with revenue, there are a lot of other things that you can do with like trying to capture as many people from not dropping out. So like with cart abandonment, reminder emails like, hey, you left something in your cart, you put it in your cart, but you didn't finish your purchase, right? I'm sure we have seen those emails. And if you use tools like Shopify, Shopify can handle those kind of emails, reminder emails for you. So like this is what it looks like, right? So, and it also shows you how many people are buying and what's the revenue per order and like stuff like that, right? So Another great tool to introduce or integrate onto your website is Drift or Intercom, which brings me back to my point about chatbots and chatting. So Drift and Intercom allow you to create real-time chats with people who are on your website. And that's a great way to answer questions about your product or shipping or any other thing that people may be asking about. Okay. So this is a summary of what I've just shared. So I'm gonna stop here and just give you a recap. So acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. So a lot was covered, right? So I'm just gonna leave all these images up here and allow you to just take that in for a second. Okay. If there are no questions, I will just very quickly go through this next segment. Well, I'm gonna skip the video segment and just talk to you about constant buzz, because I think that ties in pretty nice with big audience. I think it's part and parcel of creating a big audience, and constant buzz is really about getting your word out there. And my designation is CEO, but to me, CEO just means cold emailing officer, right? Because that's what I do. And all these examples of posts that we have been featured on are really just because of cold emails. And along the way, that has led to like much bigger publication, right? So doing cold emails has a snowball effect also, because when you get featured in certain places, that gives you some sort of credibility, and you can say, hey, we got featured here. So if these people talked about us, we must be pretty good. So cold emailing is a great way to get your word out there. But again, like the only reason I would say that we have had like moderate success with cold emailing is really just because we're upfront with what we're looking for, and the ask is very honest, right? And we are happy to send like free products to these people for review, and if they like it, they can post about it. If they don't, then they don't, right? And in many cases, when they like it, like we end up featured in these big places. At the same time, sometimes it's completely comes as a surprise to you, because most of these on this screen that we are on came as a surprise to me as well. Like Wall Street Journal, like New York Times. I had no idea we were actually featured on New York Times and Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal, we found out like 2 days later because someone emailed us saying, hey, I read about you on Wall Street Journal and I'm curious if you ship to this place. And I was like, what? I had no idea that we were, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And I Googled it, and I actually had to pay a subscription to Wall Street Journal to read an article that featured us, right? The same thing with New York Times. We just Googled it, and one day we had New York Times. So I was just Googling potato parts for some reason, and one day we were featured on New York Times, and I had no idea. So on that note, you should always set up Google Alerts. So Google Alerts is a great thing to do because it allows you to be alerted when that keyword that you want to be alerted for is added to Google search index. So if someone just writes about you and posts it on Google, and once it gets indexed on Google's web crawlers, it gives you a notification that, hey, this article contains the word potato pirates, or whatever keyword that you want to be alerted for. So that's a great tool to use and great thing to do. A golden thing that all Kickstarter campaigns do. So switching over back to Kickstarter, a golden thing that all Kickstarter campaigns do is cross promotions, right? Because cross promotions are part and parcel of what drives growth on Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is still a growing community, and people who back Kickstarter campaigns are more likely to back other Kickstarter campaigns, right? So how that works is finding similar projects to you that are live on Kickstarter or have been at some point, and then trying to cross promote with them, meaning like they would feature you and you would feature them in your updates. So things to note is that you need to always provide a unique tracking link to each of these outlets, because it allows you to track which of these uh, which of these, not just cross promotions but channels, is working for you. So that the good part is that Kickstarter allows you to do that directly from their website. And I guess finally would be working with other marketing agencies. So Kickstarter on its own is a huge ecosystem. So there are other marketing agencies out there, third-party marketing agencies, who would help you to drive growth on Kickstarter, and they would charge you based on how much they are able to drive growth for you. And Gelop is, they're our favorites. We always work with Gelop. Gelop are a great marketing agency based out of Israel, and they basically help you to optimize your ad campaigns and run ads for you. But of course, there are other people out there that would do the same for you, right? So there's Funded Today, and there's Green Inbox, and there's a few other ones. But the one that we work with and we can vouch for are Gelop, and of course user testimonials, right? So really trying to get people to post, what they think about your product for you. Well, we didn't ask for these people. They just posted it for us, but this allows us to repost it and say that, hey, people are enjoying our game, and really sort of create that buzz, right? So again, in closing, talk benefits, not features of your products. Focus 50% of your time on your product and 50% on your audience, and it's always about creating customer engagement constantly. And it's really very experimental. So you first rank all the marketing channels, you test them, and if it doesn't work, you pivot, right? If it's not working for you, you switch, you pivot, and then you try and scale that effort, and then you win, right? You try and get that success that you're really after. So that has been all, and right on time. So 1 minute early, actually, right on time. So it's 1 hour, and we are on the dot. We are done. And in the chat, the discount code for today is Livestream10, right? So getting $10 off, sorry, 10% off your Potato Frieds order on our web store. That would be it for today. And for our live stream, again, the discount code is, is there a change in the discount code? Because the discount code was just retracted. Are we good? Waiting for confirmation from our team. Okay, so again, the discount code is Livestream10. Looks like all is in order. Livestream10 is the discount code, and see you guys next time.